Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. I was halfway through writing up a roofing estimate when my phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. Normally, I'd let it roll to voicemail, but something in my gut told me, pick up. Hello? I said. Hi. Is this Cameron Martin? The voice was low, scratchy, like gravel dragged across concrete. Yeah. Who's this? This is Frank. I'm with DeMarco's Pawn and Gold over in Glendale. I believe I've got something here that belongs to you. I frowned, already annoyed. And what would that be? A Rolex Submariner, stainless steel, black face, inscription on the back reads, To Cam, love always, Dad. My stomach dropped. I spun in my chair, yanked open the bottom drawer of my desk, the place I always kept it during the day, wrapped in a microfiber cloth, tucked behind invoices and manuals. Gone. My chest burned like fire, and my hands shook so bad I had to grip the desk just to steady myself. Where'd you get it? I forced out. A young guy brought it in yesterday, Frank said. Claimed it was his, said his name was Tanner. I didn't need to hear more. I already knew. That watch, I whispered, more to myself than to Frank. It wasn't just a watch. It was the only damn thing my father left me when he passed 3 years ago. No house, no money, no fancy inheritance. Just the watch he wore every single day of his life. I remember the last time I saw it on his wrist. He was down to 140 pounds, face sunken, skin pale from chemo, but his eyes were sharp, clear, steady. He pulled the watch off, his hand trembling, and pressed it into my palm. This is yours, Cam, he said, his voice thin but unshakable. Don't let anyone take it from you. And I swore I wouldn't. But I had. I should have kept it in a safe, locked away. Should have known Tanner would try something like this one day. My mom's golden boy, her second husband's son, her real pride and joy. I didn't even remember grabbing my keys. 1 second I was still in the office. The next I was behind the wheel, flooring it toward Glendale. My seatbelt wasn't even on. My grip on the steering wheel was white-knuckled, my mind boiling with images of Tanner's smug face as he slid my father's watch across some pawn counter like it was his to sell. He thought he could take what wasn't his. He was about to learn different. DeMarco's Pawn sat wedged between a payday loan shack and a busted vape shop in a half-dead strip mall off Glendale Avenue. The sign buzzed half-lit. Bars covered the windows. I swung my truck into the lot so fast the tires screeched, threw it in park, and was through the pawnshop door before it even shut behind me. Inside, it smelled like dust, tarnished silver, and old coins. The glass counter stretched wall to wall, lined with scratched-up watches, fake gold chains, knockoff designer purses. Behind it stood Frank. Thick neck, tanned skin, arms like he still lifted crates for a living. His voice was like gravel when he spoke. You, Cam? Yeah. He studied me for a moment, then nodded once. You look like your old man. Same jaw. I couldn't answer. My throat had locked up. Frank ducked beneath the counter and came back up with a box. I knew it before he even set it down. Blue leather, edges worn, gold trim faded, my dad's box. He popped the latch, lifted the lid, and there it was. The Rolex. Black dial, stainless case. Bezel nicked at the 2 o'clock mark. My father had done that himself on a remodel job in Flagstaff years ago. Still had the inscription clear on the back. To Cam, love always, Dad. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Who brought it in? Frank hesitated. Tall kid, blonde, early 20s, said his name was Tanner, claimed it was his dad's watch, said it had been left to him. My fists curled at my sides. Didn't look like you. Didn't act like someone who'd earned a Rolex. Kid didn't even know how to pronounce Submariner. I shook my head. Figures. Frank studied me for a long moment, then reached back under the counter. This time, he pulled out an old manila folder, edges soft from years of handling. Your dad ever mentioned pawning this watch before? He asked. I frowned. No, never. He'd never. Frank slid a photocopy across the counter. A pawn slip. My eyes locked on the handwriting. My father's name, his blocky letters, his signature at the bottom. The same serial number etched on the Rolex. He came in 16 years ago, Frank said. Took a loan for $3,500, paid it back in 29 days. Cash, no excuses, no stories, just straight business. I remembered him. Quiet but proud. That watch meant something to him. I stared at the slip, floored. My father had never said a word, never even hinted. Frank didn't push. He just placed the Rolex box firmly in front of me. This belongs to you, no question. I reached out with both hands. My palms were sweating. The weight of it hit me in the chest as soon as I lifted it. Solid. Heavy. Real. I turned it over, thumb running across the inscription like maybe it could bring him back, just for a second. That's when Frank cleared his throat. There's something else. Something I've never seen before. He turned the watch over in his hand, thumb working a tiny groove hidden behind the clasp. With a soft click, a latch popped open. What the hell? I muttered. Inside the clasp, folded tighter than a cigarette paper, was a scrap of yellowed note. Frank slipped it out with tweezers, set it down gently on the counter. My pulse thundered as I unfolded it. It was his handwriting. My dad's sharp, slanted, all-caps script that I could spot from a mile away. The note read, Cam, if you're reading this, go to safe deposit box 3113 at Union First. Key is in my socket set behind the 5/8. I blinked, my throat thick. Frank just nodded, watching me. No offense, but your old man was the kind of guy who planned ahead. Most folks hide weed or poker money in their watch. Yours hid instructions. I let out a rough laugh despite the lump in my throat. You good? Frank asked quietly. Yeah, I said, slipping the note into my pocket and strapping the watch back onto my wrist where it belonged. Yeah, I'm good. Frank gave me one last nod. Kick that punk Tanner's ass for me. I turned for the door. Hey, Frank called after me. That kid looked nervous when he came in, real nervous, like he didn't think he'd get caught. The Arizona heat hit me as I stepped outside. I adjusted the watch on my wrist. Oh, he's caught, I muttered. He just doesn't know it yet. I didn't go back to work that day, didn't even think about it. Instead, I drove straight to my mom's place in Sun City. Her garage door was open when I pulled in, Gary's stupid golf cart half blocking the walkway. I pushed through the side door without knocking. They were sitting at the kitchen table, morning coffee steaming, paperwork spread out in messy stacks. Bank statements, loan applications, scribbled notes with Tanner's name plastered across the top in red pen. Perfect. I stepped forward and dropped the Rolex right in the middle of their table with a solid thunk. Lose something? My mom's eyes locked onto the watch like it had fangs. Gary leaned back in his chair like I'd just dropped a live grenade. Where'd you get that? He asked. Too fast? It was reported stolen this morning, I said, my voice low, controlled. Funny thing, the pawn shop called me, said a guy named Tanner sold it yesterday. Gary's jaw twitched. My mom's face went pale. Cam, she started. It's not what you think. I planted my hands on the table and leaned in. You pawned it for him, didn't you? For his dumbass app idea. She flinched. He needed help. Just a little seed money. That watch was the only thing Dad left me. I snapped. And you knew that. You knew what it meant. Her eyes flashed. Tanner's trying to build something, Cam. He has vision. He's not stuck installing gutters and patching drywall his whole life like you. I laughed bitter. Oh, so because I don't play pretend CEO, I don't count? Is that it? Gary finally chimed in, his voice smug. You've always been small-time, Cam. Good guy, sure, but no ambition. Tanner's different. Different? I held up the Rolex. He stole from me, and you backed it. My mom shoved her chair back, eyes wet but her voice sharp. You have no idea what it's like watching one son settle for scraps while the other reaches for more? I leaned closer. You mean watching one son work his ass off while the other drains everyone around him? Her lips trembled. You never aimed higher, Cam. You settled. Tanner dreams big. Dreams big? I spat. He stole 9 grand that wasn't his, and you funded his fantasy with my father's watch? Gary scoffed, arms crossed. We already invested it. You can't prove a thing. I pulled a folded paper from my pocket and slapped it on top of their bank statements. Yeah, I can. That's the police report. Pawnshop gave me the footage, the sales slip, the ID. All with Tanner's name. Stolen property. That's felony theft. Neither of them touched it. Neither spoke. I'm giving you one chance, I said coldly. Wire me the money, every penny, or I press charges. Mom looked up, her eyes red, desperate. Cam, don't do this. You'll ruin everything. He's so close to launching. I cut her off. He already launched, right into a police record. Gary shoved his chair back hard, shaking the table. Go ahead, call the cops. They won't care about some family squabble over a used watch. I stared him down. Already did. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. I slid the Rolex back onto my wrist, turned, and walked toward the front door. Cam, my mom's voice cracked. You'd really throw away your family over this? I paused in the doorway, hand on the knob. I didn't look back. Funny, that's exactly what you did to me. And I walked out. I didn't go home. Couldn't. My hands were still shaking on the steering wheel when I pulled into the cracked driveway of my dad's old place. The house was a rental now, but the shed in the back was still locked up tight. The grass was patchy, dead in spots. The crooked fence post leaned the same way it had when he was alive. I used to promise I'd fix it for him. Never did. I unlocked the shed and stepped inside. The smell hit first: motor oil, rust, sawdust, and time. And there it was, Dad's old red Craftsman rolling toolbox, heavy and scarred from years of use. I pulled back the blue tarp and flipped the lid. His tools were still inside, lined up neat as soldiers. Ratchet set on the left, sockets all in their places. My chest tightened as I ran a finger along the row, stopping at the 5/8, just like he wrote in the note. I pulled it out, and there it was. A small brass key, wrapped in wax paper, taped to the back of the socket. Old, worn smooth by years on his belt loop. I remembered playing with it as a kid, never knowing what it unlocked. My throat burned. I closed the box, locked the shed behind me, and walked back to my truck gripping the key like it was life itself. Didn't waste a second. I drove straight downtown. Union First was an old brick bank tucked between a law office and a breakfast diner. Green shutters, faded sign, lobby that looked like the 1980s had never left. Behind the counter sat a woman in her 60s, silver hair pulled into a tight bun. She looked up as I approached. Can I help you? I held up the key. My voice came out low, steady. Safe deposit box 313. It was under Russ Martin. Her face softened. Russ? Oh, I remember him. Always came in early, polite. Wore those work boots like they were dress shoes. I smiled faintly. That was him. She nodded. One moment. 10 minutes later, I was in a private room, staring at a narrow steel box on the table. My hands shook as I slid the key in and turned. Inside were 3 things: a manila envelope, a dusty black ledger, and a sealed envelope with Cam written in bold Sharpie. I picked up the letter first. The paper was stiff, yellowed at the edges. I tore the seal. My dad's handwriting filled the page. Cam, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. But if you found this, it means you did what I hoped you would. Kept the watch safe. Stayed true to yourself. Inside this box are bearer bonds worth over 100,000. No names, no banks, no taxes. Only you know they exist. Use them when you're ready. The ledger is work I finished but never got paid for. Jobs that slipped through while I was too sick to chase them. It's not just money. It's time. Time to build your own life. Time to walk away if you need to. You don't owe anyone your future. Not me, not your mom, not the family. Make it yours. Always, Dad. The words blurred as my eyes stung. I set the letter down and reached for the envelope. Inside were the bonds, crisp, untouched, worth more than I'd ever held in my life. And the ledger, each page filled with my dad's tight block letters, names, addresses, invoices, dates. Some crossed out as paid, some circled, highlighted, and one name stood out. Reynolds and Bloom Construction. Flooring job, $18,500, due, no payment, no callback. My dad had circled it 3 times, underlined it, scrawled in all caps across the bottom, no pay, no answer. I clenched my jaw. He hadn't just left me money, he'd left me a trail, and I was going to follow it. The next morning, I was up before the sun. Couldn't sleep anyway. That ledger sat on my kitchen table all night, pages staring back at me like unfinished business. My dad had written down every nail, every board, every hour of work he gave. And some people had walked away without paying. He hadn't chased them, not when chemo was eating him alive. But I could. By 8:30, I was parked outside a second-floor office above a car insurance shop in Tempe. The door read, Carla Martin, attorney at law. My buddy Mitch had told me about her, said she didn't waste time and didn't scare easy. When she came out to greet me, she wasn't in some fancy suit. Jeans, navy blazer, hair up, eyes sharp like she could spot a lie before you spoke it. She shook my hand once, firm. You're the guy with the contractor's ledger? Yeah, I said, holding up the folder. She motioned me inside, no desk between us, just a side table stacked with files. I laid the book down. She flipped it open, page after page, her mouth pulling into a crooked smile. You have photos of this? She asked. Every page. Good. Scan the originals today. Keep 'em safe. This, she tapped the ledger with a finger, is gold. Most guys come to me with a text thread and a crumpled Home Depot receipt. Your dad wrote everything like a damn accountant. Dates, signatures, breakdowns, airtight. She landed on the Reynolds and Bloom invoice. Her eyes narrowed. $18,500? Signed. Dated. No dispute letters. They thought the debt died with him, but it didn't. I leaned in. So what's next? Carla leaned back, crossing her arms, calculating. First, we liquidate those bonds. I've got a guy. Quiet, fast, no probate court, no taxes. Then we go after these invoices. Give me 60 days. Companies like this bank on guys like your dad not fighting back. But you're his heir, next of kin. That means standing. And if this ledger's legit, and it is, then we've got leverage. Her grin widened, sharp and certain. And leverage means money. I let out a long breath. He really kept everything. Your dad was smart, she said. Most guys in his shoes didn't think they could afford to be. She got up, pulled a form from her cabinet, slid it across to me. Sign the top page. I'll file the demand letters by Friday. I signed without a second thought. As I left, she called after me. Cam? Yeah? You ever think about going after the rest of them? Not just Reynolds and Bloom? I shrugged, tucking the ledger under my arm. One at a time. She smirked. Good, because you've got one hell of a head start. 2 weeks later, I was back in her office when she laid out the first check on the table. Reynolds and Bloom had folded faster than I ever imagined. Carla had threatened to report them to the state licensing board, copied their biggest client on the demand letter, attached the signed invoice in Dad's handwriting. They wired the full $18,500 in 4 days flat. No apology, no excuse, just money. Another $19,000 rolled in from smaller jobs, $2,000 here, $5,000 there. People I barely remembered, but Dad had documented every cent. Total payout so far, $37,000. And we weren't done. Carla leaned back in her chair, satisfaction flickering across her face. They underestimated him, Cam. They all did. But he left you a hammer, and you just started swinging. Meanwhile, Tanner's empire of smoke and mirrors was crumbling. I didn't have to lift a finger. Word spread fast. Turns out he'd blown the Rolex money on a rented office suite in Chandler, a branding package with a $6,000 logo, and one of those god-awful promo videos full of stock footage and a fake British narrator. No backend, no prototype. Just a website and a business card that read Chief Visionary Officer. Within 6 weeks, the Instagram went dark. The website redirected to a parked domain. The team he bragged about? Ghosted. It was over. And just as fast as Tanner's dream collapsed, my dad's plan for me was taking shape. 2 months after I walked out, Gary's number popped up on my phone. I was at Lowe's, picking up paint. I almost let it ring out, but curiosity got me. "Cam," he said, like we just talked yesterday. "Listen, things are a little tight right now. I was wondering if you could help us out with a quick bridge loan? Just short term. You know, family." I didn't even answer, just hung up. A week later, my inbox pinged with an email from Mom. The subject line, "We need to talk." I opened it. A long paragraph blaming me for dividing the family, saying Tanner was under pressure, that I had escalated things by involving the police. She ended it with, "You could have handled this quietly, like family." I didn't type a single word back, just attached the police report with Tanner's name highlighted and hit send. That was the last time I heard from her. The silence didn't bother me. In fact, it felt like air for the first time in years. No guilt trips, no lectures, no comparisons between me and Tanner. Just quiet. I took that quiet and turned it into something real. The first thing I bought was a house. Not big, single-story ranch, 2 bedrooms, decent bones, wide garage. 4 blocks from where Dad used to live. The guy who sold it to me said it needed vision. I told him it just needed someone who knew how to use a level. I moved in on a Tuesday, brought Dad's rolling toolbox into the garage first, set it down like it belonged there. Still had the sockets laid out. The 5/8 socket still carried the faint outline of tape where the key had been. I didn't wipe it clean. Left it exactly as he had. The Rolex stayed on my nightstand. Most nights I didn't wear it, just kept it close. Sometimes I'd open the hidden clasp, unfold that note, read it again just to remind myself I wasn't making any of this up. "You don't owe anyone your future." He meant it. I didn't go crazy with the money. No new car, no Vegas trips, no vacations. I fixed the roof, replaced the wiring, updated the kitchen. All myself, just like he would have done. I donated a chunk to the local trade school where I'd learned the ropes, told them it was from a man who believed in second chances. Then I printed some flyers, grabbed a burner phone, and started taking small jobs. Toilets, drywall, ceiling fans, door repairs, honest work, fair prices, word spread. Calls turned into texts, texts turned into referrals. Work came steady. It wasn't flashy, but it was mine. Every once in a while, a customer would spot the Rolex under my sleeve and say, "Nice watch." I'd smile and shrug. Old family thing. That was all I owed them. Evenings, I'd be in the garage sanding a door or tightening bolts, and I'd swear I could hear his boots scuff the concrete behind me, like he was checking my work one last time. I wore the watch most days now, not for style, not to show off, but because I finally understood what it meant when he pressed it into my hand that last day. He wasn't giving me jewelry, he was giving me time. Time to get out, time to reset, time to choose my own future. And I wasn't about to waste a second of it on people who thought they were owed my life.